Welcome to the Weekly Roar, coming live from the Lion's Den, helping new managers become great leaders and awesome bosses. And now, here's your host, Greg Storch.
Yay! Hi, Greg!
All right, so let's do this. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Weekly Roar. Today, I am joined by my fellow certified professional coach, an entrepreneur, and the founder of Corporate Escape Artist, Caroline Castrillon. Caroline helps corporate professionals take the leap to start their own businesses, and more importantly, how to live an authentic life and be true to who they were meant to be. Now, before we get started with this interview, my name is Greg Storch, and I'm the founder of Lion Enterprise, a leadership development and coaching company. I'm a certified speaker, coach, and trainer with the John Maxwell team, and I am also a certified professional coach as well. You can contact me through my website at www.lion-enterprise.com, where you can also access some of my free resources that you'll find right there. You can go to Lion's Pride Library and access the videos, and I also have a free e-giveaway that you can sign up for and take advantage of that. So if you guys are watching live today, please do me a favor and go ahead and comment #live. And if you're catching this on the replay, of course, go ahead and leave us a #replay in the comments, and that way I know where I'm getting to my audience. I appreciate it. Please feel free to interact with me and Caroline during this interview. If you have questions, I can pop them up on the screen and we can talk about those. So I'd love to hear your comments, and any questions you have, we can share those during the interview. So Caroline, thank you so much. Hello. Thank you so much for taking time away from your business and joining me on the Weekly Roar.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here on your 25th live event. It's so exciting. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Yes, so this is a very special edition of the Weekly Roar. It is my 25th consecutive weekly live event. So 6 months of the Weekly Roar. And that's really why I wanted to have you on the show today, because, you know, when I started this whole journey, you built a business around a major event that I went through. I left the corporate world and started out on my own. And then here you are, the corporate escape artist. And I'm like, that was me. So I love having you here today.
Thank you. I'm excited.
So Caroline, for those that are watching that may not know who you are, let's start off by why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Where are you from? And tell us about your journey that got you here to where you are now.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started my marketing career in Chicago. So shout out to all the Midwesterners out there. That's my hometown. And I basically just kind of fell into that traditional mindset that you go to a good school, get a good job, work for someone else. You work really hard. You put some money aside, maybe in a 401k, so that at some point, if you live long enough, you can retire and then really start to enjoy your life. And so I basically did that. I worked really hard. I moved several times for my job, sort of climbed the corporate ladder. And what I found was that the security that I felt I was supposed to feel working for someone else just really didn't exist. I experienced, over the course of my career, several layoffs, downsizing, companies being bought and sold. And so I never really felt in control of my career. I didn't really feel fulfilled. I felt like I had to be someone else at work to be successful. And I just wanted to really live an authentic life and be my true self in all areas of my life. So at that point, I decided to find a coach, and that's when I made my breakthrough. And I left my career after 25 years in corporate marketing to start my business, Corporate Escape Artist, and become a business and life coach. So that's where we are. And that's how you and I met, when we were going through our coaching program.
That's right. That's amazing. And that happens, it seems more and more frequently where people are losing themselves. That whole, our society creates this world that we believe we're supposed to follow this path, like you talked about. I'm supposed to graduate from college, and then I'm supposed to go to work, and then I'm supposed to work forever until I get this retirement. And after 20 years of my life to this company, I walked home one day with a gold watch and a
Right.
thank you and a pat on the back.
Yeah.
And I think I'm finding a lot more people are not realizing that. They're realizing they're actually unhappy and they're not really being their authentic selves. So that's why I love this whole corporate escape artist and this whole idea that you're helping people with that transition. So you're helping people who are coming to this realization that they're not happy, they're not their authentic self in this job. And you help them, and they may even go as far as saying, I really want my own business. I want to do what I want to do.
Right.
And that's where you help them transition, right?
Right. Yeah. I help people, and really mindset is a big part of that. People feel like there's a huge mindset transition from employee to entrepreneur, when really, there's a lot that they can take from their corporate experience that is relatable, and that they can use in their entrepreneurial lives. A lot of people don't realize how well prepared they really are, having worked in the corporate world for so many years, to make that transition.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. So you mentioned that you were large, well-known companies. So
Yeah.
talk a little bit about how you got to the point where you were ready to walk away from that 9 to 5 grind.
Yeah. So I really, for years, I wanted to be my own boss, and I just didn't really know what to do or how to get there. I knew something was wrong when I got to that VP level, and all my family and friends were like excited and thrilled for me, and I was, pretty much miserable. So,
Yes.
Yeah, I was in my office looking at the four walls, going, there must be more. There's got to be more to life than this. And for everybody out there who's maybe thinking about making a transition like this, there definitely is more, and I want them to know that they can do it. And my goal is to just also inspire and empower people to feel like they can do it, because people like you and I have made the transition. And so at that point, I like to say that the status quo was worse than the thought of change. When you reach that point, then that's a sure sign that it's really time to start planning to or taking that leap. So that's the point that I reached, and that's when I reached out to a coach and basically made my breakthrough.
You make a really great point. I wanted to ask you this, and I know we hadn't talked about this previously, but how did you know to reach out to a coach to help you with that?
Yeah. Well, I talk about this on my website. It's, for years, and I'm sure a lot of people go through the same thing. There's points in your life where you go to a therapist or a counselor, or, you reach out to people for that support system, in addition to friends and family, to get you through different points in your life. And I just felt like I was kind of going in circles. I'd go to those folks, and I felt like I would talk and talk, but there really wasn't any direction, and it wasn't as results oriented as I wanted. And when I looked into coaching, I found that coaching is much more focused on the present and the future, and it's more, goal and results oriented, and it gets you from point A to point B, so you don't feel like you're just kind of spinning your wheels, for years and years. And so and that was proof. I went to see this coach, and literally a week later, and I'm not saying that this is going to happen for everybody, but my life changed. And I believe it's because I put that out into the universe, that I wanted to make this change in my life.
Yeah. Wow. That's really interesting to me, because until I started pursuing my certification in coaching, that thought had never crossed my mind to hire my own coach, even though today I have my own coach.
Yeah.
So, yay for you for getting there so quickly. That's great. And it's a testament to the power of coaching, really, which
Yeah.
is so. So it seemed, I think I mentioned this earlier, but it seems like I'm hearing a lot about people that are leaving the corporate world lately. I don't, to pursue their passion. And I don't know if that's a statistic that's on the rise, or is it just I'm more sensitive to it because I went through it myself.
Yeah, it definitely is. Actually, freelancing and self-employment is on a steep upward curve. And it's not surprising, with technology today, like you and I are doing right now, you can work from anywhere, and you've got a lot more, virtual nomads out there. You've got a lot of this being driven by millennials who actually 45% of millennials say they value flexibility over pay when it comes to choosing a new job. So, and then there's other statistics like 15% of Americans are working a by the year 2020, we're going to have, the number of self-employed people is going to triple to about 42 million people. So there's definitely trends in that direction. And people just want fulfillment, they want autonomy, and they want flexibility. And a large part of that is being driven by the millennial population.
That's a great point. And maybe that's why I'm, noticing it more and more. I feel like, I'm a little more sensitive to it because I've lived it, but those are some actually pretty interesting statistics that's on the rise, because it's kind of scary to do that. So I was thinking about, I wanted to kind of get into the meat of this whole corporate escape artist. So if someone's watching this now, or maybe they catch it on the replay, and they're thinking about making the leap from their 9 to 5,
right?
What advice do you want to give to them who are watching now?
Well, I first would encourage them to really do some soul searching and know that that's really what they want to do, and that it's not just because they hate their manager or they're in a situation that they'd rather be, someplace else, because maybe it's just a matter of a job change or career change, or, a different manager or something like that. So, because entrepreneurship isn't for everyone, and you really have to feel passionate about what you're doing to get over, through the highs and lows of being an entrepreneur. So that's the first thing I would say, is make sure that that's what you want to do. But if that is definitely what they want to pursue, then I would say the first step is to really do some soul searching and self-exploration, and start asking yourself questions like, what are you passionate about? What do you enjoy doing? What are you good at? Because the key is really the intersection of what you enjoy and what you're good at. And,
Can you say one more time? That was good. What's the intersection?
Yeah, the intersection of what you enjoy and what you're good at. That's really the key when it comes to determining, the ideal scenario in terms of, moving forward with starting a business.
Love that.
And some other questions, like one of my favorites is, if you had all the time and money in the world and you knew you couldn't fail, what would you be doing? When you really sit down and think about questions like that, it's very revealing, and it's really necessary for you to do a lot of self-exploration before you get into starting a business, because you really have to know yourself well to be successful.
Absolutely. I wholeheartedly agree.
And then I would say the next step is turning that self-knowledge into business ideas. So when I was going through this, I thought to myself, I enjoy working with people one-on-one, mentoring, helping them grow personally and professionally. And that's how I found coaching, and, found my own coach and made my breakthrough. So thinking about how that can translate into business ideas. And then the next step would be, doing some research, test your idea, and then maybe start a side business. So, research your idea. Maybe you need some additional education or certifications, kind of like what we did, and you can complete those in the evenings or on weekends while you still have your full-time job. You can test your idea, ask your friends and family, is it a product or service that they would be interested in? And And then start a side business if you can, because obviously that's a nice way to get your foot in the door while you still have a full-time job and that's, steady paycheck. And then once you provide the side business, I would say you really need a plan. This is really key because a lot of people have these side businesses, but they have no plan. And that's basically just an expensive hobby. So you want to.
Oh, Caroline. Oh my gosh. That was another golden buzzer. That say that
Yeah.
one more time. That was gold.
Yeah. So a side hustle or side business, if you want to turn that into a full-time business without a plan, is just an expensive hobby.
Yes.
So,
love it.
So you want to plan, you want to have a transition plan, whether it's 6 months from now or 2 years, whatever your timeline may be. You want to put a plan together, and obviously, finances is a big part of it. You want to look at what kind of runway you're going to need to start your business, how long it's going to take for it to be profitable, and put some specific timelines and milestones in place so that it holds you accountable. And then once you have that plan and that deadline, then the next step is really to just go for it. And what I tell people is no matter how much planning or preparation you put into this, you're going to feel some fear. Fear is always going to be there. Just don't let it, keep you from moving forward. That's the key. That's the difference between successful people and very successful people. They don't let fear get in the way of their goals. So and the other thing I want to say is there is never a right time to start a business. It's really based on your timeline and what you want to accomplish. So my advice at that point, if they've done all that preparation, is to just go for it and don't look back and put your all into it.
So let me ask you this. I'm really interested. Now, when you work with your clients, are you working with them through the things you just described, or are you coaching them past the fears of actually making the transition away from the corporate life to their own entrepreneurship?
Yeah. Well, everyone is in a different stage. So I work with people one-on-one, and I customize my program basically based on what their goals and objectives are. So some people are in the stage where they know they want to be their own boss, but they have no idea what they want to do. And other people already have a side business started, but they've been doing it for 2, 3, 4, 5 years. And they don't know how to make that leap to turn it into a full-time business, even though that's what they want to do. Another client, just put in his 2-week notice at work and wants to, become an author and do some other things. So all my clients are a little bit different, but the commonality there is that they're looking for just more freedom, flexibility, and the ability to be creative in their work lives.
Yeah, why do you suspect that people are becoming disenfranchised with the traditional work scenarios and starting to really turn towards entrepreneurship?
Well, again, I think a lot of it's being driven by the millennial population because there's so many of these folks out there, and they're just realizing that there's other options. And the days where, like you were saying, our parents' day, maybe you could work for a company for 20 years and retire, and they had things like profit sharing plans that, and things that don't really exist today. And there's just isn't that loyalty that there used to be in terms of companies being loyal to their employees for the most part, in my opinion. And so, and then with technology is supposed to make our lives easier, but what's happening is that now we're working around the clock because we can't get away from our cell phones. We can't get away from our email.
Oh my God. Yeah.
So we talk about the 9 to 5, but it's really the 24/7, it's not 9 to 5. People are working on their vacations. And even though it's not, necessarily stated, that's the expectation that's being set at companies these days. And if you're going to work 24/7, you might as well do that for yourself.
Yeah, another great point, Caroline, is about our mobile devices and the inability of managers to um, set expectations about that 24-hour electronic leash,
Yeah.
because we're all very busy, and then you'll have the manager or the supervisor who's sending out that email at 11 o'clock at night just to move it off their plate, but the expectation hasn't been set that they're not expecting a response. So everybody's responding late at night because they want to be the first to respond to the boss. And
Yeah.
it's really creating an imbalance in the work-life balance.
Right. And my thought is we should be focusing on productivity and not how much time people are spending in meetings or in the office, or all those types of things. I've continually asked myself, why aren't more people working remotely? Why, that's what technology is supposed to be for, to make our lives more flexible and easier. And that's what a lot of, like I said, the millennial population in particular is realizing, that they can do this and they don't need to work for a company. They can start their own companies and, be just fine, or have a couple different things going on and make money that way.
Yeah, they're figuring out these new ways of earning an income, and it's not the traditional go to work for somebody else and make them rich.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. So we talked a little bit about the fear part of making this decision. There's a lot of fear surrounding somebody's decision to actually branch out on their own and become their own boss. So from the perspective of fear, I think you touched on a little bit, but can you talk a little bit more about what kind of advice would you give to people who are probably toying with this idea in their
Yeah. Well, what I would say is that fear, what people need to realize is fear is always going to be there. The most successful people in the world feel fear. And I said this earlier, the difference is they just don't let it interfere with moving forward. So once you acknowledge that it's not going to go away, it's not like successful people all of a sudden wake up and feel no fear one day and that's how they accomplish all their goals. It's actually the opposite. If you feel fear, that it might actually be a good sign, because that means you're challenging yourself. And that's what you want, because if we're not challenging ourselves, we're not growing as human beings, and you're not feeling alive. So you just want to kind of acknowledge fear like it's another person in the room, and then just kind of set it aside. And some specific things that people can do in terms of dealing with fear is to set attainable goals. A lot of people feel overwhelmed when they think about the long term of starting a business and all the different facets. So use kind of like the SMART goal theory, specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely. And then you really want to have I like to say, surround yourself with your wolf pack. You want to have your support system around you, and that helps a lot. You're going to need that no matter what. So, and besides friends and family, you want to consider maybe a coach. You also will need mentors, maybe in the field that you're looking to enter. And, like there's an organization called SCORE, which a lot of people love because it offers mentorship and help at no cost. And then you want to look at also support people outside of that, because if you're going to start a business, you're going to need legal advice. You're going to need, potentially a financial advisor, an accountant. You're going to want to talk to those people. Those are all people that are going to be part of your support system. And that's going to help you move forward. And then the other thing I like to tell people is to take small steps. Every step doesn't have to be huge. Even just doing some research, going to the SBA, to the Small Business Administration office, and take a class or talk to someone, have coffee with someone in the industry that you want to go into. Any small step that's getting you closer to your goal is valuable. And if you're taking action, that is going to give you confidence as well. And that's going to get you to the next step and the next step. And that's how you get those big goals accomplished.
Awesome. That's great advice. Thank you for sharing that insight. I know it's scary to make the leap. I I remember back, it was actually last week was the 1 year mark that I actually submitted my resignation letter.
Yay!
Yes. And yay now, a year later, but on that day, I was scared.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it is scary. And I think if your passion's strong enough, that will drive you past that fear to push you in the direction you need to go.
Yeah. And again, it's a mindset. I think we all grew up with that idea that you go to the office every day, you come home, and it's just because it's been that way for so long. People don't know anything different. If this were the norm, if we're, I think it will become the norm eventually, where we're working virtually and you maybe have a couple different projects going at the same time. There's nothing that says you have to have one job. You can be doing 2 or 3 things and managing your time that way. So again, I think it's just a mindset. That whole 9 to 5 mentality, that was started back in the 1800s. That's when people, that's when people worked in factories, and we had to limit the workday because they were, people were working in factories like 16-hour days or whatever it was, or even longer. And then it's just continued, but the 9 to 5 is very antiquated, in my opinion. It's outdated. And again, we should be focusing on, in my opinion, productivity and not working a 40-hour work week, because the time doesn't really matter. It's what people are accomplishing in that time that matters. So
yes. Yes. Oh my gosh, this is full of pearls. I love it. Thank you so much for sharing all this stuff.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about, I went to your website, of course. I was looking at all the awesome stuff you have. And one of the things you offer is this free e-resource. I want to call it an ebook. It's a guide called, and I love the title, The 5 Signs It's Time to Leave Your Soul-Sucking Job. So,
yes.
First of all, before we talk a little bit about it, I don't want to give too much of it away because I want people to sign up and get it. But how can people get that resource if they're interested in reading that?
Yeah, so you can go to my website at corporateescapeartist.com, and it's really easy. You can just download it there. And it's got the 5 signs that literally I went through, and I offer some specific little tidbits in there from my own experience that hopefully people will enjoy, and that, it'll resonate with them as well. But it's the 5 signs that really were the flags for me that that allowed me to know that, okay, this is the time for me to do what I really want to do, which is be my own boss. So
awesome. So they can go to, and I just put your website up there, but I wanted to make a note. There's no spaces between Corporate Escape Artists. It's all one word.
Yeah.
But I just put it up on the screen that way so you could clearly see the 3 words that you want to type in together. So www.corporateescapeartist.com. Right there on Caroline's front page is you can just leave your name and your email address, and you will automatically get this free resource sent to you via email, and you'll have it. And it's a great read, especially if you're thinking about making this move. Speaking of which, say somebody is thinking about making this move and they are smart like you were, and they want to hire a coach, and they're thinking about reaching out to you. How could somebody get in touch with you, Caroline, if they wanted to just talk to you about the possibility of coaching?
Yeah, well, you can email me at caroline@corporateescapeartist.com. I'm on Facebook it's at Corp Escape Artist, and I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram. So
Awesome.
just, you can reach out to me any of those different ways. And I'd love to hear your story if, you're thinking about taking the leap to start your own business.
Awesome. So if you're, toying with the idea maybe of branching out on your own, you're tired of making somebody else the money and you're receiving the salary while you're making them successful, and you want to be successful yourself, and you need a coach to help you through that transition. Here's one right here, Caroline Castrillon, the corporate escape artist, who has not only coaches clients to do this, but she's done it herself. So who better to help you with that transition than Caroline? So that's awesome. So this free resource, I said I don't want to give too much of it away, but I love it because these 5 signs, they resonated with me as well. And one that really resonated was your point about authenticity. And when you wrote about one of the signs that lets us know that it's time to go, which is, I believe your step is, you're tired of your work persona, and you want to be the real you in all areas of your life. Right. Talk a little bit more about that particular sign.
Yeah, so I'm sure a lot of people out there know what I'm talking about. You feel like you have to be a different person at work to be successful. And sometimes, yeah, me too. And sometimes you do it for so long that you don't even realize you're doing it anymore. I kind of liken it to a square peg being shoved into a round hole. And if you do that long enough, that square peg starts to become distorted. And that's what happens to people. I just felt like I was getting further and further away from my real self to be this other person in order to be successful in my corporate job. And I didn't want to live that way anymore because it's actually really exhausting. If anyone out there knows what I'm talking about, it's exhausting to live that way when you can live, and be your authentic self in all areas of your life. And you don't have to think about having a work persona or a personal persona. You're just yourself all the time. And it's possible, it's doable.
I love that. And I think that resonated with me so much because I was born and raised in Daytona Beach, and I'm a t-shirt, shorts, and flip-flop kind of guy. And I found myself a corporate executive putting on suits every day. And I remember telling my wife, I felt like I was putting on a costume every day.
Yeah.
And so that authenticity really was gone. I mean, I took pride in my appearance, and I tried to, really buy nice suits, and I wore the pocket squares and had the nice shoes.
Yeah.
But it just, I felt like I was playing the part of something that I wasn't.
Yeah. And I've talked to a lot of people that feel that way. So if there are people out there that feel that way, I just want you to know you're not alone. There's a lot of people out there that feel the same way, and they just don't know that there are other options out there for you. So
yeah, there are. And so some of the people you've worked with in this capacity, what are some of the common emotions that people will feel when they're starting to go through or even think about this kind of a transition?
Yeah. Well, fear is the biggest, fear, lack of confidence. What do I know about starting a business? What are people going to think? That's a big one. My family's going to think I'm crazy. There's immediately the assumption that I'm not going to be able to make as much money as I make now. I don't have, you just think about all the reasons it's just not going to happen. People think about these statistics, which I hate, that talk about how 1 in every who knows how many businesses fail in the first however many years. And you got to remember, these are blanket statistics that are across the board. Every business is completely different, and you can't go into something thinking it's going to fail, because anything that's worth doing it's not necessarily going to be easy, but it is possible. And so, think about it. You don't want to go into a marriage thinking it's going to fail, or, you go in to buy a house and you don't think that the money is going to fall. You don't go into all these big decisions in life, hopefully, thinking that they're going to fail. You want to be optimistic. If you already go into it with that mindset, then you will not succeed. So that's why I always come back to mindset. But the common feelings are fear. You know, I have a client who wants to actually go into coaching, and then they tell themselves, well, why are people going to listen to me? You know,
Oh,
so it's
yeah.
that kind of that self-doubt, and everyone has their own, you know, what we like to call gremlins, their own voices that kind of tell them why they can't do something. And
Yeah.
also, as a side note, if that, what we call gremlin, if that little voice comes in, that's usually at the point where you're going to do something big with your life. And it could be a sign that you really should move forward and just not listen to that little voice. So
yes, that's a great point, because gremlins, this little inner voice that we've given the name gremlin, is actually designed. It's not necessarily bad. It can have its benefits in certain situations, but not situations like what we're discussing. But that gremlin, that little voice inside your head, is actually designed to keep you safe. It doesn't want to see you move forward. It wants you sitting in your comfort zone, and it likes you being protected and staying with what you know. And the minute you start thinking about stepping outside of that arena and going into the unknown, that's when that voice gets really loud, and it causes you to doubt yourself, right? I'm not good enough.
Right.
Yeah, that voice. So I'm glad you brought that up, and it seems like it would be a pretty common thing that people would experience going through this. And I love your point about, you know, we wouldn't do anything in life. The statistics for marriages are like probably worse now, but I remember they used to say 50% of all marriages end in divorce, but people were getting married every day.
Yeah.
So if that statistic wasn't going to sway you from, why would a statistic like, you know, only 1% of small businesses are in business 5 years later, or something silly like that? Why would you let that stop you from pursuing what you want to do?
Yeah.
Same thing. I love that. Very cool. I was looking for some Q&A here. I don't see anything here, but I wanted to give our viewers, we have a few viewers on with us, and for some reason I'm not seeing any comments pop up here. But if you have questions for Caroline right now, or a comment, if you'll just type them in the comments, I might be able to see, I should be able to see them, because I saw my wife's comments from earlier. Here's one.
Yay.
Yay. So if you have anything, I'll give you a second to type it in there, and if I can see it pop up here, I'll throw it up there and we can have a little chat about it. But that was all the questions that I was thinking about talking about. We covered a lot.
Yeah.
Just this whole idea of people coming to the conclusion that their life really isn't their authentic life, and they're starting to want to be who they really are. And that might mean them leaving that typical societal expectation of the 9 to 5 and branch out on their own. And that's where the corporate escape artist can help with that transition.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so no comments yet. And after all of my events, I usually go back through and I comment back on people's comments. So I'll still do that this time. But Caroline, I want to give you back the time in your day. I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to sit with us and share your knowledge and experience with people. I hope that this touches somebody, and just one person that might be thinking, maybe it's time that I did this. And you have so many golden nuggets in this chat that I hope people can pull out. I'll summarize them in the comments, but I just wanted to thank you, Caroline Castrillon from the Corporate Escape Artist. You can go to her website at www.corporateescapeartist.com. Of course, the same name for Facebook. She's on LinkedIn, Instagram. You can find Caroline if you really need to find her. She's out there. She's popping up on the Google searches right at the top, and you just can't miss. Here's what she looks like, and you'll see her face right there on the Corporate Escape Artist. So go check her out, especially if you're looking for a coach to help you with that transition. Right, Caroline?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Greg. And
Yeah.
I really enjoyed talking to you today. I just want you to know that I love the work that you're doing, and it's so inspiring to see your travels.
Thank you.
So if anyone out there thinks that you can't work from anywhere, just, Greg is a perfect example. You can work from anywhere if you have a computer and a camera, and it's really fulfilling to live life the way that you've always wanted to. So if there's anybody out there that wants to do that but doesn't know how or doesn't feel like they can, just reach out to us.
I love it. Thanks so much, Caroline. Yes, that's a great point to end on, is you're looking at two people that have successfully performed the corporate escape. So she's exactly right. This is doable. We're making this happen, but you have to plan the work and work the plan. You can't just jump out and build your wings on the way down. I actually don't recommend you do that. Caroline had some very sound advice about planning and researching and making sure that you know what to expect, whether it's from the work involved, who your audience is going to be, or the financial stream coming in after you do walk away from your corporate job, that you do your due diligence before you just quit and then figure it out. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much again, Caroline. I loved connecting with you today. I love watching what you're doing. As a person who jumped out of corporate, I'm fully on board with what you're doing, and I know people will reach out to you and ask for your help as they do the same thing we've done.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Greg. I really enjoyed today, and congratulations again on your 25th live event. Yay!
Thank you so much, Caroline. I will talk to you soon. And thanks again. Have a wonderful week.
Thanks. You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for watching the Weekly Roar live event at lionenterprise.com. If you enjoyed this video, please tell others to join us each week here in the Lion's Den. Thanks again, and see you next week.